Phil.
You have a book.
Of course.
You have a book, man.
Yeah, man. Of course we do.
We have to have a book.
Oh, that's great. I love the set.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks, man.
This is a spare room in my house.
Glorious Sons. That's so cool.
Yeah, so welcome to Ryan's house.
Yeah, Glorious Sons. I guess you're familiar with them. Kingston's own, right?
Yeah, Blackhawks jersey. Oh my God, I'm gonna love this.
Oh, buddy, you're in for a treat here tonight, Bill. You're in for a treat.
Oh, yeah. That
No
makes
kidding.
That's pretty
Are
stoked.
you a Hawks fan?
Oh, yeah, like lifelong. True red, black, white. I'm not allowed in my house if I'm not a Hawks fan. Oh, snap, Bill.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
There's, I don't know if you can see it against the wall there. See a little bit of the red?
Yeah.
Those are a couple of seats from the old Chicago Stadium.
Oh, my God. My dad would kill you to have those. That's awesome, man.
What a collection. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is a collection.
Yeah, I got tons of, I love my Hawks.
That's awesome. Because you've been a lifelong fan, obviously.
I think from before I was born,
Nice.
I was a Chicago fan. Yeah.
So it runs in the family because, I mean, growing up in Ontario, it's hard, you know what I mean? It's Leaf Nation, right? So I'm a diehard Toronto fan.
I was born in Welland, and for some reason there's a lot of Chicago fans there. They had a trainer, I forget his name, in the 60s from Chicago. So a lot of people grew up, like my family, I have older brothers, they all grew up with like Bobby Hall, hockey sticks and stuff. So, and you remember that when you're a kid. So when you're in grade 1 looking at hockey cards, it's like, oh, Chicago, I'm keeping that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's never left.
Who's your fave Hawk, or is there a favorite Hawk?
Oh,
Question of the day.
I don't know if you can see the wall here.
Look at the
These
hockey
are all
cards.
cards, autographed or like from the 50s, memorabilia cards. I don't know. I probably have to go. Depends on the era. If you want to go old school, Tony Esposito. If you want to go modern era, Taves, Kane, Patrick Sharp, Hossa.
Yeah. I'm a big Hossa guy. I like Hossa.
JR, right? JR was a big one.
like that. Like when you come to like prime time. So I grew up in the '90s, obviously. So like JR, Belfour era, 100%. Like that.
Okay.
Like Savard was kind of going out at that point.
Tony Amante.
Those guys were coming in. Tony Amonte's a big one too. Yeah. Remember watching
Chelios.
Chelly. And so like I mean, it was kind of a sin because you'd watch like Olympics or whatever, and you'd see a lot of the Hawks players playing for the U.S. teams, but you can't win them all.
You know what I was reading this week? Chris Chelios, good friends with Eddie Vedder. They're both from Chicago.
Yes, I seen a thing about that a couple weeks ago, even I think.
Yeah, and he's tried to get Eddie to be a Hawks fan, but Eddie loves all the Chicago teams, but he hasn't really taken to hockey. But apparently Chelios is trying. So
if there's somebody's going to convince you, it's that guy.
Right? He's been there. Yeah. He's won it. So
yeah, he's a real gem too. I mean, he was a Canadian, and he was a Hawk. So not that I'm a Canadiens fan at all.
Oh, I love the posters. I'm just checking them out. Oh, I see Bret Hart. That's cool.
Yeah, a little Bret Hart action. Jim the Anvil, and it's kind of this is pretty much my childhood thrown up onto a wall. So this is and it's kind of what our podcast is about, right? So it's that nostalgic.
One more thing. Is the where is it? If you can see it on top, it's a replica WWE WWF Intercontinental Champion with Honky Tonk Man figures all over there.
Nice.
Yeah, Honky's my guy.
So well, I guess I can get into that too. Like, how did you gravitate towards Honky Tonk Man? Because I know you're a professional wrestling buff as well.
The first time I saw him, I think it was at the Gardens. I want to say maybe '87 in Toronto, and his tag partner might have been Greg the Hammer Valentine, and he was a heel. He was a bad guy, Honky. But I just love that. I loved how, Greg the Hammer is in the ring. I forget who their opponents were. Getting the crap kicked out of him. He goes to tag in the Honky. He stumbles back to the corner, tags in, went to try tag in Honky. Honky leaned back as if he got distracted He let him in there and he got pulled back in. I just thought that is brilliant. That is hilarious.
Oh yeah, a little shake, rattle, and roll, right?
Yeah, I just thought he was amazing. And then years later, interviewing him, and just Wayne Ferris, the guy is just an amazing person. But I'm not a big fan of heels. They got to be really good. And to me, he was the greatest heel.
Yeah,
he was just entertaining. Yeah,
I was a Honky Tonk fan back in the day when I was a kid. Like my grandfather was a huge fan. Like collected the VHSs, had a wrestling room. Like you go in his room and there was a little TV, of course, like a little 13-inch TV, a little color thing with his old VCR, and he would watch his Raw and whatever, and then he'd have his tapes and all that stuff. He'd be rewatching WrestleManias and whatever. It was awesome. Yes, like that's where I came into.
Cool.
Yeah, back in the old days of like War Games when like Ric Flair and all those guys and Rhodes would like kill each other in the ring, and it'd be like 3 rings with the big cage, the real big cage, with the thick wire, with the thick bars and stuff like that. It was crazy.
And you're no stranger to the squared circle either, right? You got to lock horns with another, a Canadian, I guess, nostalgic TV personality, PJ Fresh Phil. What was it like?
Yeah, that was just a few weeks ago. My fiance Amanda won't let me go into the ring, and every now and then I'll say, just one more time. I'm lacing up the boots one more time, and then something else will happen. I'll say, okay, that's it. But yeah, I fell off the top rope in that. I was doing a Undertaker old school top rope walk, and the the ropes weren't really, they were too loose. They weren't tightened at all. And so as I took one step and the rope started doing this, I just thought, well, I'm up here. Took another step and the rope did this, and I sort of flew off, and I didn't fall into the ring. I fell off onto the concrete floor below, but I was okay. But I haven't been properly, I've been trained enough to get by in some matches, but not like fully trained, like for years, like a lot of the brothers and sisters that enter the ring do. And I have nothing but respect for them, and I don't want to take away anything from them by saying that I'm a pro wrestler. I have been in the ring a few times, and I need a lot more training.
Definitely.
But it's addictive, man.
Yeah, and it's
as soon as you lace up the boots, yeah. There's something about it.
There's a whole new appreciation too. Yeah, once you get in there yourself, and you know that these guys do it almost 365 days a year, right?
Oh yeah, like the big pros, yeah, the well-known pros, not the indie circuits, but yeah. I don't know how they do it, and and I've had the pleasure of interviewing all these guys like Hacksaw and Jake the Snake and
The Rock.
Mick Foley. I've interviewed all these guys, and they all walk around really slow, all hunched over. Like all their backs are gone, all their shoulders, their knees are all gone. And 10, 15 years in that business will screw you up for the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah.
So I see someone like, how long has, I don't know, Randy Orton been at it for? He's probably the longest running person in the WWE, I would think, right now.
It's over 20 years for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Like not taking movie breaks and that kind of stuff for sure. Probably
I think it was like 2003-ish era he came in as a rookie.
And he is still out there.
He's still
it's amazing.
I think he looks better than ever. Like he's been on top of the game for so long.
That's commitment, man. Holy jeez. Yeah.
It's a lot of bumps in the back. There's not much padding. People think it's like it looks padded. It's not. It's just a piece of plywood.
No, it's wood. A little bit of padding, and the mat goes on top of that. It's not very giving. Really, it isn't. And I've learned to take bumps, and they still hurt. A simple bump hurts. And if you don't do it right, you can get concussed.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well,
whenever I've been in the ring and I'm doing a move, whether I'm taking a suplex or I'm taking a DDT or whatever, it's always through your mind. Chin in, chin in, chin in. You go to take a bump, chin in. Because if you don't, your head hits that mat. It hurts. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that. Those commercials we would see. Don't try this at home. Well, we were the kids they were targeting that towards, because we'd be out in the backyard and our brothers, or we were just getting manhandled in the backyard on all times.
Full
I think
suit.
that Trailer Park episode with the green bastard. What was his name? They had like mattresses set up.
Oh yeah,
Ropes.
Smashing each other with light bulbs and whatever other nonsense you can get your hands on. Really hitting each other with chairs. Crazy people.
Yeah,
I've had a garbage can to the head, square onto the head, and in the dressing room before the match. He said, "Don't forget to put your hand up." And I said, "No, I'm going to take it square on. Just make sure the seam is the other way." So if you notice anyone that gets hit in the head with a garbage can, the person hitting will turn it looking for the seam, and the seam of the garbage can is always opposite of where they'll come down on. And so when I got hit in the head with the garbage can, it was full on. I didn't have my hand up. I put a good dent in the garbage can too, but luckily the seam was opposite. Because if that seam you get hit with the seam, it's not going to give.
No, that'll hurt. It's a folded
Like
up piece of tin.
yeah, like a cheese grater to the forehead.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which some people do, and I don't know how, but it's crazy. So yeah, it's cool to get into a little pro wrestling talk here. I wasn't quite expecting this. This is great.
That was a big point. That was a big point when we were growing up. Like Raw was the Attitude Era, of course, was just like yeah. There's a dynasty.
See, I talk about this in the book. Growing up on Saturdays for me, it was started off with Maple Leaf Wrestling out of Toronto, which was an NWA territory, and then I think it was the NWA show, and then AWA, where Hulk originally came from.
Oh yeah, AWA, yeah.
And that's going way back. So yeah, that was my Saturday mornings as a kid.
Yeah, and same with me too. Yeah, it's one of the things that I still hold on to as well. Like, it brings back the nostalgic feelings.
Yeah, like I don't follow wrestling as closely as I did for sure, but like even when I see clips, I'm like, oh yeah, like you see a nice stunner from Stone Cold, or you know what I mean? Like you see these moments kind of thing pop up in your news feed or whatever, and just brings you right back. You want to go wrestle your best
it's
friend.
funny you mentioned nostalgia. That's why I started, and I talk about this in the book too. It's why I started collecting old Mad magazines a few years ago and hockey cards again. There's something that, and I don't like to live in the past, but nostalgia is cool. It brings you back to a place and a time that, certain things can only trigger, and music is great for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I commend you guys for devoting this podcast to, a little bit of pop culture all over the place, but mostly music, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So good for you guys.
Yeah, that's kind of like, I don't know, it's my main interest in life kind of thing. Like I went to school for audio and played in bands and all that good stuff. So it kind of hits real hard when it comes to like nostalgia, or even just, I don't know, just the idea of life even. Like, I don't know, like I'd find it really hard to live without music. Like if I went deaf, that would be really weird, you know what I mean? So like it plays a really important role in my life, and I know it plays an important role in yours. Especially growing up, like most people, they've got attachments to certain songs or ideas of the song kind of thing, and yeah, it just grows with you. And
that was one of the really cool things about a couple of book tours late last year and in April. Hearing from people that, what MuchMusic meant to them, what that time of their life meant to them, what some interviews that they watched and enjoyed meant to them. And like, I've heard from a lot of people over the years that my love of The Cure and my interviews with Robert Smith and doing Cure specials made people fall in love with The Cure. And like, what a huge friggin' thrill that is for me to hear. But just hearing the importance of what those days meant to some people, it's a huge kick for me. And, they'd have their kids at the table and them explaining to their kids what MuchMusic was. And, their kids would be like, why didn't you just watch it on the computer, these music videos or interviews? Yeah. And they're like, we didn't have computers, or if we did, we didn't have YouTube.
No, it definitely wasn't like it is now. I mean, we talk about MuchMusic a lot. Like your name has been dropped on this podcast a lot. We'll put it that way. But yeah, I mean, it was a huge thing. Like we're from a small town. We're technically from Newfoundland originally. We're in Alberta, Grand Prairie right now. But we grew up in a little small town in the middle of Newfoundland, which I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's a big place, but it's a small place, right? So there's not much. It's a little behind the times.
What's the name of it?
So we're from Bishop's Falls, so it's like dead center.
I've been to I flew into St. John's, drove up to St. Anthony, Porto Bass, and then drove back to St. John's.
So you probably passed right through Bishop, like, well, not through it, but like, so Bishop's is like down over the highway, and then the highway passes on the top kind of thing. You can see it from the bottom kind of thing. Yep. So you probably drove right by the Irving, right up on top of the hill there. But yeah, it's a beautiful place and stuff. But I mean, it's a small town, especially in the 90s. It was behind the times, I think. Like, it's just the nature of the island type of thing. You're on an island or whatever. So like to us, and I know to me, MuchMusic was. And we were just talking about it on another interview, but it was like LA to us.
It was
like,
it was an escape from where we were.
Yeah, and it brought the country together, and it introduced. You know, if you were in Newfoundland, you could get turned on by a band in Vancouver, and the other way around. And you know, radio does that to an extent, but there's something powerful about visuals that you can connect the dots a lot easier.
Oh, for sure.
And sadly, doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, that's like. So
by the way, have we started?
We just let it roll, and somewhere we cut in.
we'll just roll in on a hot start somewhere along the way, and yeah. This is good content.
Yeah, right at the beginning.
Yeah, we can't.
Yeah, you can do a proper welcome. Do a proper welcome back now if you want.
Well, here we are, folks. We do have a huge guest right here. If you don't know already by now, this is an all-time great Canadian journalist, author, and host of a lot of MuchMusic shows, a lot of shows and stories, and the story of Much More Music, sorry. And I'm probably babbling on here, but the great Bill Welychka is joining us on the podcast today.
Yeah. Legendary Canadian broadcaster.
Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun. It has been fun. This is awesome.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to this one for a bit. Like I say, like MuchMusic was humongous in our life kind of thing growing up. And even now, I mean, I still reference it. Some younger people don't know what I'm talking about, but I do reference it. Like I do, like the interviews that you guys have done, the content, even like, you know, you kind of put it up against MTV kind of thing, like being in the studio where there's people and the people are working and there's people walking by and hooting and hollering and just a totally different atmosphere. And it was really compelling at all times.
I did an interview a couple of weeks ago with a podcaster from Oklahoma, and he does this Lisa Marie Presley fan club.
Oh, okay.
And the co-podcaster was from London, Ontario, and she was explaining to him what MuchMusic was and how it was Canada's version of MTV. And he asked me, he said, well, so what is the big difference between the two? And I explained that, you know, there were some pockets in the U.S. where we were eventually on as Much USA, like in Cleveland, New York, some other places throughout the U.S. There were certain markets. But I said, from the very, you know, people say, well, they used to run home to watch MuchMusic. I used to too in high school as well. It was around for a couple of years before I started working there. Yeah. And so I can say that MuchMusic was important in my life too, watching it. But I said from the get-go, MuchMusic was all over the place. We could play independent music. We played black artists. We played tons of stuff that MTV wouldn't. And, you know, we wouldn't necessarily play hits. We would play them just because the video was great or whatever. And then they became a hit at radio. So MuchMusic didn't really have a lot of the rules that MTV had. And I'm proud to be from there for that reason.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's amazing. Like it's something that we carry on with us all the time in our day to day. I still have Big Shiny Tunes CD in my truck right now that I listen to quite frequently, right? It's always something that's going to be on in the back of my mind somewhere or another, right? So
yeah, man, for sure. So Bill, like when you first started at MuchMusic, and I mean, you started as an editor and stuff, but like, what was it like the first few times, even the first time that you got kind of thrown into the front of the camera? Like how was that for you? Because I don't think, reading the book, I don't feel like that was your original intention. And
no, I helped create a country show soon after I started there, because I became a big country fan in college. It was the first year of Randy Travis and Dwight Yoakam and Steve Earle's debut records, and this is what I considered alternative. That's what I was into, but no one I knew listened to country, so I really dove into it and did my homework and fell in love with George Jones and Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash and Conway Twitty and all these cats. And then I realized with Much, all these videos were coming in that were country music videos, but they weren't being played. And in the library, there were some interviews throughout the years, and I submitted a proposal, and one ended up going on the air called Outlaws and Heroes, and I was the show's editor and one of the producers. And then Denise Donlin was the eventual host of that show, and she went away on maternity leave and said to me, why don't you just host the show while I'm gone as the show's editor, working editor? And I said, okay, sounds fun. I remember those first few shows were horrible. I didn't want to be on air. Yeah, they were horrible. But I loved country music, and I was an editor, and I think that's what shined through. It was authentic, which I'm a big fan of anyway. And then within a few months, I improved a little bit. And one of the things I really did, what I like to think I did very well out of the gate, is just do interviews because they were fun. And as an editor, I got a chance to watch a lot of interviews and what works and what doesn't, and timing and little things like that. And so when she came back from mat leave, we co-hosted, and then she became the director of music programming. So I became full-time host. And then when they canceled the country show because CMT started in Canada, we couldn't have a 90-minute weekly show for country music while this whole other country music network had started. So then they moved me over to regular flow. So that was my first introduction to being on air, but all the whole while not walking away from the edit bay producing, because I love that stuff. I still do that. I love it.
Yeah, and I think that's like I noticed that on your YouTube channel, like some of your videos still have that Much Music flavor, the way you edit it together, and the music in the background and stuff. Like just the last one I saw with the magnet fishing. Like I thought that was like just a simple idea, but you made it compelling to watch.
Yeah, and I think that's your style. Like it's like your style type of thing. Like it's like certain artist has a tone or a sound. I think that's your sound.
Well, working with music, it's interesting in terms of video aspect. Yeah, and I love editing. I love it. And it's sometimes an inconvenience if I'm watching a film or if I'm watching someone else's work. I'm critiquing and I'm thinking, wow, that was a really good cut. That was really cool how they went from there to there. Oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. Little things like that. But yeah, and with music, you have the options of, using an interview, maybe using B-roll of an autograph session, some of the music videos, some live stuff thrown in there. And it's so creative, and that's what I love about editing. And one of my favorite projects, I think, was, and I love Oasis, interviewing Liam and Noel, but it was at the same time, but not together. So I think the interview was with Liam first in Oakland. They were opening up for U2. And I had, I think, 30 minutes with Liam and then 30 minutes with Noel. And I started off with Liam and asking, by the way, when people say Liam's a hooligan, he's an asshole, I love him. He's great. But, throwing something at Liam that Noel had said in another previous interview of mine or something that I have read, Liam would react to it and comment. And then when I interviewed Noel right after Liam, saying to Noel what Liam had just said, Noel would react to that. So when I got around to editing the story of Oasis, I was cutting back and forth between Liam and Noel as if they were arguing.
I see.
And to me, it was like I'm watching this in the edit bay going, oh my God, this works. This is incredible. But just the pacing of the back and forth and that's the magic of editing.
That's the beauty.
Plus I can make myself look good as well.
That's what it's all about.
If I stuttered a question, I could just tighten it up under some music or something.
Yeah, hide the stutter kind of thing. No, it's awesome. So that must have been obviously during the infamous feud era, or I would assume, eh?
That never really ended.
Yeah,
was
well, true.
always
Yeah, they don't
happening.
like each other right now. I heard read the big interview. Of course, someone's shitting all over Dave Grohl. That was Noel, I believe, and then Liam has him on his album. Of course, he co-wrote his new single and whatever. It's just like this is a tangle. But it's funny because now, like, I've read a bunch of different articles. I'm not a huge Oasis fan, but I like Liam. He's a rock star. Like, he's one of the last.
Yeah.
I feel like he's one of the last. Like him, Josh Homme, like those kind of guys are like the last of the rock stars kind of thing. And yeah, he was talking. Of course, you see the Noel thing where he's kind of like, frig him. You know, he's too big. Whatever. Reel it in. And then Liam's like, yeah, rock star, let's go. Let's do this. I want to write a song with it. You know what I mean? It's just funny. They're an interesting bunch. I like following their story.
Well, you got the Metallica shirt on. I think when they first started making big noise in America, who was it from? Was it Kirk from Metallica? Lars, I think, became a huge Oasis fan. And he had a really good thing to say about Liam, and that is, like, you don't see that rock star persona anymore, that swagger.
Yeah.
You know, that cocky swagger. And that turned some people off to Oasis, but I just thought it was hilarious.
Yeah,
you know,
I think
see
it's
Liam
awesome.
walk to the front of the stage and just stare out with his sunglasses on.
Well, yeah, it's the aura.
Yeah, or just like go sit on the drum riser. Like, you know what I mean? Like middle of a big festival, big, you know, hoopla going on, whatever, and he just goes, sits on the drum riser.
And you can tell he's soaking it in.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, there was no rock star posing with Liam. What you saw was what you got, and I love that about them.
Yeah, to me, it's like that awkward moment when a comedian says something that's, you know, not necessarily offensive, but it's borderline. So there's that inch of silence before the laughter, and the comedian says nothing. You know what I mean? Like, it's a silent moment, and he just lets it hang, and then everybody catches the joke. Like, that's to me what that reminds me of, right? It's funny. It's interesting. Yeah, they're an interesting bunch, man. I like Liam in that way. I like his new stuff. Like, his new album is awesome. Like, rock stars. We don't have many.
I'm still holding out for a reunion. It's got to happen.
I think it will. I think it will, to be honest. And like, they don't have to be in the same room, but I think it'll happen. Just put up a fake wall or something. They don't have to look at each other or whatever.
I got 3 or 4 live DVDs of Oasis in their prime, and there's just moments of brilliance in their live shows. And I can't imagine what it's like to be on stage, and if you're Liam or if you're Noel and you're looking out and you see an entire Wembley arena of bodies just jumping.
Yeah.
30, 40,000 people all jumping up at once to the music.
Yeah, and I'm sure you felt it even like being in the crowd at a concert. Like, everybody's in the vibe. Like, everybody's catching the vibe. Everybody's doing, you know, jumping, dancing, whatever the thing is. So can you imagine, you know, that's why I liked being in bands, was that reaction. Is looking out and seeing people dance. It's like,
well,
it's like,
I went and saw The Cure in
magic,
Toronto last summer, another favorite band of mine. And there's so many goosebump factors. But looking around, realizing, okay, there were 15-year-olds there. There were 30-year-olds. There were 65-year-olds in the audience. You know, and Robert Smith has been around since 1978, 79, maybe, with The Cure. And like, that's the power of music. You know, maybe sports to a degree can bring that many people together.
Yeah. Like a playoff moment or whatever you want to say.
Good music is timeless.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But there's something about music that brings people together, but also just makes you feel good and inspires you and becomes a friend and a companion on long road trips. And, you know, there's a healing power to music. And that's never left me.
Do you still check out like shows, you know, that come to town? Are you always there checking that out?
I try to. But there's a new band out of Kingston. There's a band called Luscious that I'll go see a lot. They're amazing. And also Tiny Horse is another band out of Kingston that's relatively new that just blew me away when I first saw them live.
Nice.
There's something about Kingston that's always had something to do with music and creativity. There's a lot of artists here. There's a lot of writers. There's a lot of poets. There's a lot of painters. A lot of musicians. Kingston still has a lot of places to play, which is important.
How do you feel about
how
do you feel about nowadays? It almost seems like with Ticketmaster and stuff, you get charged more on fees and processing fees than the cost of actual tickets. That it's kind of keeping people out of going to see certain people, or once they get to a certain height in fame and stuff.
Yeah, good for Pearl Jam for first starting that battle in the 90s.
Yeah,
Robert Smith did it on their big North American tour last year, where, I bought tickets to see The Cure in Toronto, and like 3 weeks later, there was a rebate from Ticketmaster. Robert Smith got into it with Ticketmaster saying, these tickets, you have to refund some money to these people because the service charges were ridiculous. But it's a monopoly for the most part. And it has kept people away. I see online, it's like, oh, I'd love to go see whoever, but tickets are just too expensive. Look what Pearl Jam tried to do in the 90s. Tickets $15. By the time you walked away from the counter, they were like 65.
Oh, it's insane. Like, it's insane. And of course, people don't realize, like, Ticketmaster, Live Nation, it's all the same umbrella type thing. Like, it's all,
Yep.
You don't escape it just because you went to the next market kind of thing. Like, it's to me, it's a big tragedy. Like, I think it's horrible. Like, it totally takes the live thing. I mean, even like look at the Black Keys, like they had to cancel the whole tour because people are saying, oh, well, they're not popular enough and this and that, whatever. And I mean, I get it. Like, it's probably not the vibe for Black Keys as a huge arena necessarily, but I know there's tons of fans. I mean, they sell records like they do. So, but I think it was the price point that truly drove them out of their own tour. Like, that's unfortunate.
Which is why I think it's cool that you're seeing you're seeing a lot of that this summer and last summer, where it's not just a band in the opening act. You're seeing 2 or 3, 4 acts sometimes, sharing the night, sharing the stage. Way more cost effective, that's for sure. But then you go and beer's going to be $25. Like, you can't win.
And it's warm and it came from wherever.
Yeah. That's the thing. You can't win these days.
No, everything's expensive, I guess. And I mean, I get it. Like, the cost of everything has gone up and whatever else, but I don't need to pay $300 for a seat. Like, that's aggressive.
Very few bands I would do that for. I'd probably do that for an Oasis reunion, though.
Well, yeah, and I mean, that's the thing. Like, there's certain things that are worth the price of admission kind of thing, but, like, not everything is worth that type of price, right? And it's not to say that the artist isn't worth that. It's just that nobody, like, the average person doesn't have that kind of cash to drop every week, because it's one thing to go see a concert, but if you want to go see concerts, I mean, that's expensive. It gets pricey real quick.
Well, it was important for me last summer to go see The Cure, because I don't know how many other times they'll tour. I don't know, I hope Robert Smith lives forever. But, by the time you factor in the train, a hotel room, tickets, beer, dinner and stuff, it adds up and it's pricey.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But so I think a lot of people are sort of having to pick and choose these days what they're going to be spending their money on. Yeah. And sadly, that's the way a lot of these artists are making money now, is from touring and merch.
Yeah. I mean, we're on Spotify and stuff, but I mean, Spotify doesn't hand out millions of dollars necessarily, depending on who you are. You know what I mean? You get special contracts and all these, even record deals aren't the same. It all kind of plays off each other, right? Like, you get the 360 deal, then you get a stream problem, and now you got a ticket problem, and it becomes a whole thing.
Bonnie Tyler, after the eclipse in, was it March or April? The eclipse. Here in Kingston, it was a big deal. There was that path throughout North America where the eclipse, like the total solar eclipse happened. And so Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart was being played for like a week all over the US and in Canada, radio stations and stuff. You think, wow, she's going to be, getting huge bucks again from all these streamers and stuff. I think she tweeted out a week after the eclipse, thanks Spotify for my check of $14 or something.
And a million,
something ridiculous.
Yeah, million streams later.
That's a criminal act.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very jaded when it comes to all those things. And I think it has a double edge, right? Like, I think the streaming thing is good in certain ways. Like, it gives us a platform, for instance, or a DIY type situation to happen. But in the same regard, like, if I was a serious musician and like that was how I made my money, probably not, like, it's not the best option. And then, like, you're touring yourself into the ground because you have to tour to make money. So now you tour 360 days a year, and, like, you know what I mean? It's just an ongoing, to me, it's like this big circle of, I don't know, it just doesn't work. Like, it's too much business in the art, I guess, is kind of what it is.
Which is why I love to see a band like the Beaches come out, or
Beaches are good.
Glorious Sons, just because, how tough it is to, and like they do it the old-fashioned way. They get out and tour and tour and tour, and then finally radio, a little bit of radio play, a lot of streams, and then more radio stations. And next, they're on some huge festivals in the U.S. and doing all of a sudden national TV shows, and it's hard to break through. And for every Beaches or Glorious Sons, there's probably 700-800 other bands trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. It is a crowded market because it basically like the same premise, right? It's a DIY market. You can buy recording equipment for a reasonable price, and it works reasonably well. You can look up anything on the internet. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Yeah, so it leaves leeway. But that's one thing I will say. Like, so what's your take on like new Canadian rock kind of thing? Like, because it seems like we're kind of getting a slight revival. Like, we got like Big Rex back out on the scene. Got J.J. Wild, Glorious Sons, Sheepdogs, all these kind of really hot bands that seem to be making their way into U.S. markets.
I love J.J. Wild. Oh, I love a huge crush on her. But
you're not the only one, Bill.
There's that whole Noah Can thing now, and I hear it on a lot of top 40 radio now, that whispering sort of light guitar playing, that's sort of soft, whispering, almost vocal delivery. It all sounds the same. I don't want to be that old guy that says, all the music sounds the same. No, but like, where's the rock?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Where's that attitude?
Yeah, where's the
J.J. Wild's doing it.
Yeah,
good for her.
She's
the Beaches too.
Yeah, Beaches are good. That's a band that we haven't come through this way, but I would like to see it. Like they put out a couple singles a couple years ago, kind of thing. They were kind of hot on the radio. They took a break. I guess they could come out with a new album. They got some singles coming out. Really cool, and it's cool to see an all-female group do them very well.
Yep. One of my favorite bands right now is a band from Kingston. A lot of people describe them as Blondie just because it's a very beautiful, amazing vocalist, lead singer with guys behind her. But if you can't, check out Luscious. Brielle LeBlanc is a singer. It's a band that you see them live at a club 6 years ago, and it's all covers. I saw them a couple of weeks ago, and it was all originals, and they're all really good tunes.
Nice.
So I'm hoping that's going to be the next big band to break through.
Definitely have to get that on the radar.
Yeah, we'll put that on the radar. We'll blast that one of these days on a solo pod here.
Yeah,
we'll give them a big shout out.
Pump them up.
Cool.
Yeah, because we like to promote, we like to do the Canadian thing, right? We like to promote the Canadian stuff. Like, I mean, as much as American bands are cool, it's cool to promote. And we grew up with a lot of Canadian bands that, at the time, I didn't really realize were Canadian necessarily. Like, they were just big groups.
Mm-hmm. Castador is another Kingston band that, if you haven't heard of them, you should check them out. Castador with a K. It's Rob Baker's son from the Hip. He plays bass. Boris Baker plays bass, and just a shit hot band.
Nice.
Really good band.
Nice. Speaking of the Hip, how does it feel to be good friends with the Hip? Because I know that's like, for you, seems like that was a big deal, having Mr. Langlois write the foreword and all that. How does that make it? Because I mean, they're like a gym. I mean, everybody knows how important they are.
I still consider myself a fan of the band first and foremost. Been interviewing them since the mid 90s, and then moving to Kingston over 10 years ago, 12 years ago now, and solidifying friendships with the guys, and friends with their families. It's I don't take it for granted, and it's special. It really is special. To the point where they'll ask me to, something's brewing that I can't really talk about with the Hip, but I got asked to do this really cool special thing coming up in the fall, and I'm like, yeah, just point. Nice. Yep, I'm there. Yeah, because their music, again, we talk about music being a friend, and music getting you through difficult times, and music being a companion, and that's what that band has done for me, as well as for millions of people around the world. And I cherish the friendships with those guys, and I love them, and I take a bullet for them. And I'm really looking forward to the documentary that's coming out in the fall that Mike Downey, Gord's brother, has helmed. It's a 4-part documentary on Amazon. So just when all the Hip fans and collectors thought they had everything, no, he's uncovered stuff that the band hasn't even seen before. So that's going to be amazing.
Definitely looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, I see his little, he does those little Instagram shorts or little videos or whatever, kind of, hey, it's my turn to show off something cool, and then he shows off something cool that Gord owned, or that was kind of just stuffed in a closet for 20 years or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's cool. That's so cool.
Well, him and Patrick, Gord's younger brother, following his death, I guess went through Gord's locker. And I don't know if I should be saying this, but he found some stuff, old university films that were never developed.
Wow.
Of the hip.
That's incredible.
Of early things. And so he had them developed. I don't know how much cleaning up he had to do. So yeah, there's some stuff out there that hardcore hip collectors are going to be like, holy shit, look at that.
Holy man. Yeah, one of my good buddies, Ryan, is a huge fan. He would like to get his paws on that, I imagine.
Yeah, so when I asked Paul to write the foreword, he was like, yeah. And then I forgot that I asked him, and then the book was going to the publisher, and they got back and said, we need the foreword. And I went, oh, fuck, I forgot about that. So I emailed Paul, and I said, so I'm going to need that foreword by the end of the week. He's like, yeah, no problem. Send it to me the next day. He was in Costa Rica with his wife, Joanne, on vacation. And I thought, man, the guy's got time to write a foreword while he's on vacation. So I've been telling people, I had this mental picture. I saw Paul, I told him this, of him lying on, sitting on a beach with his cut off jean shorts on a laptop, banging away with a smoke in one hand and beer on the other, trying to finish this forward. And he went, Bill, it's pretty much how I did it.
Yeah, that's and the name of the book we have to mention too. A Happy Has-Been, exciting times and lessons learned by one of Canada's foremost entertainment journalists. So we gotta dig into how you came about with the title and everything like that as well. I think people they see that and it's like, well, I know this guy and I don't think he's a has-been. We don't certainly think you are, right? But it definitely is a little, self-deprecating that it definitely catches your eye, right?
And I didn't realize how much attention the title was going to get, but it's been great. I love it. An old coworker referred to me that one time. My career went backwards. I started off in a major market on a national level and have found my way throughout the years down to a smaller market and not national anymore. I've never left media. I still do TV. I'm in radio now, but I still do TV with Global Kingston here. And it was an awkward question in why I wasn't national anymore. And he called me a washed up has-been. I was in Ottawa at the time, at the CTV affiliate. I never really did the career. Typically, you start off in a small market and move to a big market. I did it backwards, and I'm okay with that. I have no problem with that. But it's true. If you ask, there's probably someone watching right now or listening right now that, hears the name and they go, oh, I think I remember that guy from the 90s. And then later on much more music. And is he still working? Is he dead? What happened to that guy? There are people out there that feel that way, that think that way. As they should, there are people who followed my career from day one, which blows me away. There are people in Kingston and Eastern Ontario that watch or listen that don't know that I had a big music history as well. So it's all over the place. But the most important part of the title is the word happy for me, because I talk about it in the book, and that desire to be, at what point does that desire to be famous and rich supersede happiness? At some point, being happy has nothing to do with those things. And so it all sort of encompasses all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I think it's great because, like I say, I like the little bit of humor in it, and it's eye-catching. And it's not really that true. Or at least I don't feel that way.
Thank you.
I don't feel that way. And I don't see her. Even going through the book is because you kind of say, oh, well, we kind of went backwards. But I don't see it that way. I think it's tough to be in that space for a long time, especially when it relates to music. Because you can't, and not say anybody outgrows anything, but you can't, there's always a transition, right? Like, it's for the kids kind of thing, right? So, like, at some point, it's nicer to, you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like you did it properly. Just move on quietly, no big hoopla. Just, I'm going to go do my thing. And I think it's cool. I commend you for going ahead and doing it. Like, that's a huge step. I would assume anyway.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, and I'm so grateful to still be employed in media, and I've never left. And I know so many people who have been laid off, or, and we hear about CTV Bell laying off 1,700 people across Canada earlier this year, or, my own company, Chorus, did some layoffs earlier this year, canceled some shows, and it's been going on, I think, consistently for about 15 years now, just massive amounts of layoffs, not just in TV, but in radio and in print. We're seeing local newspapers fold all over Canada, and it's sad. And I know a lot of people in the business who don't work in media anymore over the years. They've had to do a second career, pivot. And, I consider myself extremely lucky and grateful that I can still work in media and still be doing the same thing after all these years, and still be employed. And I'm grateful for that. I don't take it for granted, and I consider myself very, very fortunate.
No, it's great. And it shows, right? You can even, because I went and looked at some clips from like global stuff, like recent stuff or whatever. And I mean, you still have, to me, the same attitude as when I was watching you when I was a kid, right? Everything's exciting. Talking to everybody's exciting. Like I mean, it's kind of the reason why we're doing this. It's kind of the reason I got into music and all these kinds of things is like you guys on MuchMusic with that flavor and that energy and that excitement for the thing you're doing, right? And it shows when you watch or listen. That definitely does, and it's inspiring to a certain degree. If it's your alley, right? Like it's inspiring.
Thank you. Yeah. What a life, which is why I guess I sort of wrote the book. I've been asked about a book for years, and I would think, who's going to care? No one's going to really. To my surprise, people care, and what a great exercise in really, at this point in my life. And I don't like to look back a whole lot. Sometimes you have to. And I certainly did a lot last year with the Much Doc and doing interviews for that, doing interviews for the book, and just realizing like how grateful I am to still be here and to look back and be given the opportunities that I have to meet every single one of my idols and then some, and every crush I ever had, and again, I don't take it for granted, and I'm humbled by it all as well. And, I know enough on-air people over the years that have developed egos where they think they're doing the viewer a favor by being on their TV screen. And I've always maintained that, no, the viewer is doing us a favor by watching, by giving us the opportunity to be here. So,
that's the thing. And not only do we want to consume that type of media and stuff like that in your book, we want more of it, right? So like we're excited that you have, like, you're writing second edition right now. Is that true?
Yeah, it's done probably next year. Some tweaking, I think. But doing interviews for the book. Other stories were coming up that I was relating that weren't in the book. Nice. And so one day I just started jotting them down, and then I realized a lot has happened since the release of the book too. Mm-hmm. That I think if I was to die tomorrow, the book is not really final. If I got hit by a truck and died. So now with a second edition next year, if that truck hits me and I die, then I could die happy. Well, except for dying and the whole truck thing. That's not cool. But at least the story,
it's out there,
can be completed. Yeah. No, with some other stuff in there and other pictures. Yeah.
Nice.
Have you ever thought of maybe doing your own podcast and maybe like throw out all that extra stuff that you maybe wouldn't be able to more so put in print?
I've been asked about it before, and you guys, I can only imagine how much work it is for you to do this.
It's a little bit of work.
Yeah.
Because it's a two-man operation.
Well, the thing is, it's just us, right? So I mean, we have day jobs. We don't, we haven't quit our day jobs to do this kind of thing. So we still have a full, I got off work at 5. I was out in the sun delivering hot tubs and booking people for appointments all day kind of thing, right? So and raced here to get this done and stuff like that. So like we had a radio interview before we did this. Now we're doing this, and then now of course we're going to sit. We got a bunch of stuff going on this weekend. So like
all the social media,
and the social media part of it, like that's. same thing, double-edged sword, takes up a lot of effort and time kind of thing, but in the same light, it's fun to do it because you technically are being creative, right? So it has that type of thing, but you do have to put the effort in. I got kids too, that all comes into play, right? So it is a lot of effort, and I would imagine like something like if you were to kind of get after it, it'd be a lot more than what we're doing. Because I'm sure there's.
Well, I would think it'd just be someday maybe. I don't know. I'd never thought I'd write a book, and I did. So
yeah,
maybe someday. Not anytime soon, though.
Yeah.
But and that was one of the things why I wrote the book. I think is because during COVID, all these new podcasts were coming up, and I kept getting asked to do interviews talking about my life or my career, and started writing stuff down one day, and then looked down at my computer and realized I think I might have a beginnings of a book here. And so just kept at it until, it eventually was completed and eventually out. And then, like I said earlier, doing all these book signings and meeting amazing people and hearing some beautiful comments. So never say never, I guess.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, you heard it here. There might be one. No, that's awesome. So we'll get. I'll delve a little back into the past again. So, like, I am a humongous Prince fan, and I'm sure you've been asked lots of times about interviewing Prince. What is it like? How did you feel? I don't want to know what it's like. How did you feel when that started? Like, because I'm sure there's a lot of backtracking. We have to make a lot of arrangements and all these other things. So, like, what is it like to kind of be involved with somebody of that caliber? Because to me, like, Prince is the all-seeing type of thing. Like, that's what he is to me. Like, I don't own every album, that kind of thing, but like in terms of full musicianship and doing it the way he wants to do it kind of thing, he is the man. So what was it like to kind of just like day one where it's like, okay, we're going to have Prince? Like, how does that make you feel?
The first thing I would think of is, how it relates to me and growing up and having Purple Rain and how beautiful those songs were and what he did for years later with the music industry and how active he was with trying to change things where the artist would actually have a little bit more say in their career. And, you start thinking of all these things and it's like, wow, yeah, that would be a great interview. And the fact that he doesn't do a whole lot of interviews.
Yeah, that's what caught me. Is like, oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, and then finding out it wasn't like a pre-tape, sit-down, 20-minute junket-style interview. This was going to be a full-on national live broadcast with him performing as well. And, you start off with something like that, just thinking, okay, what do I want to know about Prince? Jot down 3 or 4 ideas. What's the new album like? Get into the new album. Ask some questions about the new album. And then, of course, we're taking questions from a live studio audience or from Speaker's Corner across Canada or email questions. And then it gets all thrown into a 60-minute or 90-minute special. And part of my job is just to traffic cop it. Okay, we're going to go here next. Okay, here, we're going to go over here. Here's a commercial break. Here's Prince live. Throughout all those gaps, I'm there asking questions as well. And you're keeping in mind timing and it's not until the end of the show when the credits are rolling, when you realize that was a freaking good show. Everything came together. There was no issues. Prince had a good time, which is also very important. The audience had a good time, which is important. It was just one of those magical broadcasts. And like I said, I've been lucky to be involved with a whole bunch of them. But yeah, Prince definitely up there in terms of a highlight in one's career, just because of what he represented and his, just an interesting guy. And he never did a lot of interviews, and that was the cool thing about him. There was still an air of mystery with Prince over the years because he never really gave of himself too much.
Yeah, it was an excellent, even watching it live. I remember watching it live, and then I rewatched it the other day just to go over it again. It's like the performance was amazing. The interview, your interview was amazing. He very rarely gives up information. He doesn't ever really talk about himself, and if he talks, it's usually like putting the stuff on his band kind of thing, like this kind of stuff. Like, for the amount of work that man does, and he's so humble. Like, that was the part that blew me away the most, was like, he's so humble.
Yeah.
Like, this is incredible. But it was an excellent, that was one of my favorite live events that Much put off, and like said of my favorite interview kind of thing. Like I really thoroughly enjoyed that. Like, so what's it like to stand like 2 feet from Prince while he's doing Prince?
The first thing that struck me is I think we were wearing the same thing. I think like I had like white or beige pants, and he was, and I had a black top, and he had a black top, and it's like, how the hell did that happen? What was amazing though is I don't know if I talk about this in the book. I think I do. It's been a while since I wrote it, but during the day there was a sound check, and I had gone down to the studio to do something, and I was on my way out. He was coming in with his entourage to do a sound check, and so I sort of stood back. The band was going through, and then Prince was walking through, and I hadn't met him at this point. And he stopped and looked at me and sort of bowed and said, "Great to meet you." And I went, "Really nice meeting you. I think it's going to be a great show tonight. Thanks for being here." And he went, "Yes, it will be." And then he carried on. And I thought to myself, well, how did he know who I was? Because I hadn't met him.
Yeah.
How gracious of it that he would stop me and, compliment me and make a quick connection before his sound check. And then I realized, well, he was living in Toronto for a while. He probably watched.
That's right.
Yeah.
And might have enjoyed some interviews over the years. I don't know.
Yeah, because I did read something. I think it was I don't know if it was an interview with Prince or like something after he passed away. But he was a avid Much Music watcher, according to whoever this person was in his entourage, I guess, or whatever. So like because he was living there to kind of escape LA or whatever, like that kind of lifestyle or whatever for a little while. And he apparently did get pretty heavy into Much Music, and I'm sure he mentioned it somewhere too. I think he was watching the Much market in the USA market as well. But when he lived in Toronto, he was apparently a big fan.
And and just the fact that he would express himself that way was very generous of him. And someone told me a couple of years ago that they did a tour of Paisley Park in Minneapolis, and our interview is running on a monitor there.
Wow. Well, that's incredible.
What a huge honor.
Yeah, if you've never done anything else, that's the one. That's awesome.
That's considered a public performance, I would think. I think I should be getting some money from him.
Some kind of royalties for that, eh? Yeah.
Every play is a couple streaming pennies.
No, like what a huge honor that would be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, like you mentioned the first few shows you were, from with Outlaws and Heroes, you said they were terrible, all the way up to being handpicked by Bon Jovi to interview him in New York. So how does that feel like to progress so far? And who was like, did you have any early inspiration, like, or were you just being yourself?
Yeah, just always loving music, and always being interested in not just musicians but people. I've always been curious about people, and that's never left me. But I think I had some good teachers along the way in terms of editing interviews by Christopher Ward or Denise Donlin, or a number of VJs before me, or even me watching other TV shows and seeing how Diane Sawyer and 60 Minutes and those investigative journalism interviews go down, and the importance of connecting and establishing trust with the interview subject, I think, is very important as well. And I hate the entertainment TMZ style of interviewing, and for a while there it became about who's got cellulite and who's in rehab and who's cheating on who. Like, I don't fucking care about that stuff. I don't want to be on a red carpet asking someone who they're wearing, and that's what you see still now with award shows and entertainment shows, is frivolous entertainment coverage. No, man, there's some good meat you can get out of these people.
Yeah.
And so, I think just, what works, what doesn't, and from really good teachers that I've edited their interviews over the years. And I think an artist knows sort of the goal for me is, make sure the artist is happy and comfortable, make sure their fans are going to enjoy the interview, make sure anyone watching who doesn't know that artist is going to be interested enough to become a fan. to satisfy my sort of curiosity about this person as well. And all that gets thrown into a big fucking pot and then stirred. And hopefully what comes out is a good result for everybody. And so I'd interviewed John a number of times. So when I found out that he handpicked me to do this New York special, an international special, I just thought, wow, that is so cool. Plus I love New York. Any reason to get to New York for the weekend, I'm all in support of.
That's and I gotta ask too, like I seen your collection earlier, but like, have you kept any keepsakes from certain things over the years that you still hold on to?
In terms of
like, say anything, like you mentioned you have a drinking glass from Johnny Cash.
Oh yeah, a few of those things. Yeah, after the interview with Johnny in the hotel room, I took his glass because I thought, what a cool thing.
Oh, I would have done the same.
Marty Stewart gave me a jacket.
Manuel jacket.
Speaking of Johnny Cash, one time Johnny Cash, guitar player, he married his daughter, Cindy Cash. Marty Stewart sort of became this ambassador for country music history. I love Marty Stewart, just a great guy. Anyway, he gave me a jacket after a show one time. And if you ever seen a Marty Stewart album cover or any of his videos, you'll know his jackets are Manuel jackets. And Manuel was the designer for Elvis and Johnny Cash and Graham Parsons, and just these beautiful jackets. So I recently donated that jacket to a country bar here in Kingston that just started up.
Oh, nice.
And I love the decor of this bar, and I was telling him about this jacket, and I presented it to him one day, about a month and a half ago. So he's going to have it in a shadow box and put on the wall. I think it'd be cool. It's Kingston's first country bar, so amazing. I think it's important.
Yeah, I mean,
but I have a few things. I never really got autographs or pictures. I have some frame grabs from video that I've kept over the years, but in terms of collections, no, just Chicago Blackhawks and Honky Tonk Man mostly.
Nice.
Yeah. I do have one black and white photo of Led Zeppelin that Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, and Robert Plant have all signed to me at separate times. Remember, I had to interview Jimmy Page in New York, and one of my best friends is also a huge Zeppelin fan. So I got him a Jimmy Page autograph on this really cool picture. And then I had to interview John Paul Jones, and then I got him to sign that for my buddy Jeff as well. And I was at his office, and he had it framed. I'm going, why the hell didn't I think of this? I'm getting you all these autographs. I love Zeppelin.
Yeah.
So then another time I had to interview John Paul Jones and Jimmy Page again. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to miss out this time. So after the interview, I got them to sign this really cool black and white photo of Led Zeppelin. And then eventually I ended up interviewing Robert Plant to finish the picture, and Jeff, I made sure he got his signed too. So that's a pretty special thing that I have hanging up.
Yeah, I would imagine. I'll ask, based on that now, I'll ask you a question. What is it like to sit down with John Paul Jones? He to me is Led Zeppelin. But I mean, not to take away from anybody else.
A lot of people would agree with you.
But yeah. I love JPJ. Yeah, so what's it like to sit across from him? Because he comes across as a very intelligent, astute man, kind of thing, like a very English man.
Yeah, and a gentleman, and he was one of these guys, and same with Jimmy Page. Like, they were session musicians, working on other people's records for years before Led Zeppelin, and like, you got to be shit hot if you're gonna be in a studio with anyone from Tom Jones to Brenda Lee and give them what they want, Yeah, and Jonesy is a brilliant bass player, keyboardist. I think he is responsible for a lot of sounds in Zeppelin that most people discredit Jimmy Page and Robert Plant. Well, those are the chief songwriters. Yeah. But it's funny you bring that up. I was listening to some of the Houses of the Holy today with the grunge.
That's my favorite one.
Maker.
That's my favorite one.
Is it?
Yeah, that's my favorite. That one and Physical Graffiti. That's my two. I'm not as much as I like the early stuff. I like the later stuff because It doesn't even. It
It's all
sounds
over
like,
the place.
Yeah, it sounds like Zeppelin, but it's craziness. It's awesome.
Yeah, but listening to the crunge, it was like this James Brown funk thing going on. And one of the things I think that John Bonham said, or it might have been John Paul Jones, said that he wanted to do a song that you couldn't dance to. And like, that's why the song is like weird timing and stuff.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And at the very end, do you remember what Robert Plant and John Paul Jones say at the very end of the crunge?
No, at the end of it.
About the bridge?
No, not offhand.
I'm just trying to find the bridge, please. Where's the bridge? Where's that confounded bridge?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
At the end of the crunge.
Yeah.
Found out just recently, they wanted to do a James Brown sort of take on the song, like real funky.
Yeah.
And James Brown, when he recorded a record, was usually live. And I think there was one song where he was yelling to the band, take it to the bridge, take it to the bridge.
Yeah, he yells he instructs the band a lot.
Yeah, the bridge of the song.
Yeah.
Take it to the bridge. And that was their sort of little nod to James Brown. Where's the bridge? Please, I'm just trying to find the bridge. Where's that confounded bridge? That spoken word thing?
Yeah, that's funny.
At the end of the crunch.
Strange.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a nod to
that's freaking awesome, actually. I didn't know
James
that.
Brown. How about that?
Yeah. I was wondering they didn't use the middle eight. When I did say, where's the middle eight?
So I'm not a musician, so I have a vague idea of what that means.
It's the same thing. It's English for the bridge. It's just the English.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's just the English term for the bridge. So like if you talk like it's funny because I watch a lot of Justin Hawkins Rods Again. I love it. And From the Darkness, shout out to him. But he always does the middle eight, and then he stops. For you Americans, that's the bridge. And then he's very astute, of course, right? It's funny. Yeah, that's an excellent. But yeah, it's the middle eight in the UK.
Nice. I didn't know that.
What's the song The Darkness did about cocaine? Fucking brilliant song.
Oh,
One-way ticket to hell and
to hell
back.
and back.
Yeah, just
and it starts off with them like
chopping it
up and having a sniff and whatever. It's like holy shit. And it's funny because that was when the Hawkins brothers technically were coming out of rehab for the first time because they were tearing it up after Permission to Land, and then this album broke out and they went to rehab right at the end of finishing the album kind of thing, right before the tour. So it's really like heavily influenced by like the previous years kind of thing, but going forward they weren't the same band really in that way, right? Yeah, they're interesting.
I love that band.
I do too. I was I remember discovering that on Much Loud one night at like, because for us it would have been like 2 a.m, I guess, or 1:30 or something like that. Seeing Mr. Strombo playing that thing, and I was like, "What?" Because of course it was, I believe, a thing called Love, and it's like that.
The high pitched voice, right? It's like,
what
is this?
Yeah, and I'm a huge like
I thought
Boston
when I
fan.
first heard them, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was
that's
like
what everybody
a joke
thought.
on metal or something. It's like, no, that's how they do it.
Yeah, and that's what everybody thought. They were like, everybody was like, "Oh, you hear this parody band?" I'm like, "They're not a parody band. Like that's just play rock and roll, like very 70s influenced rock and roll."
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah. Like I'm a huge Boston fan, right? So like same idea kind of thing, like not as crazy or whatever, but same idea. So like hit me the big falsettos and very, kind of like Queen too, I guess. But
yeah, and they had the satin sort of jumpsuits and long flowing robes and stuff.
Oh yeah. Justin's always out there with showing way too much skin. It was awesome. I love it. Yeah, those guys are wicked. But yeah, that was where I learned about the middle eight from Justin Hawkins.
Wow, which is the bridge. Okay,
which is
good
the bridge.
to know.
Yeah.
You touched a little bit on that MuchMusic documentary. How did you feel about that not being released to the masses?
It's a shame. If anyone doesn't know, the doc that came out last fall was that toured Canada. It was supposed to end up on Crave in December, and then it got bumped to January, and eventually it just didn't materialize. So from what I heard, CTV Bell did the appropriate clearances for music and all the artists. It was all their footage they inherited from the Much library after buying CHUM. And the director did an amazing job, I thought. That was a lot of work he had to do. And then by the time it started touring Canada, and I went on some of the dates as well, and I love the Q&As after. People really enjoyed it and some great questions. But I think one of the record companies stepped forward and said, those are our artists. Yes, those are your tapes, but those are our artists. Give us $5,000. And Bell said, no, because if we do that, then all the other labels are going to come forward wanting money because those are their artists too. And from what I gather, the Canadian sync laws with artists and the record labels were different than American. And somehow there was this gray area where the film was given the green light, and then by the time it was going to go to Crave, lawyers get involved, and it's like, nope, we're just not going to air it then. So until that gets rectified, this thing is sitting on someone's computer, sadly. It deserves to be seen. But, you know, I've been asked over the years, that Woodstock documentary, I'm in there with some footage from Much. There's that new Nickelback documentary that's out. I'm in there. My voice is from a special that I did with Nickelback. And people say, oh, do you get paid for this? It's like, no. You know, my payment was doing the interviews for Much. Those tapes were saved. If someone wants to come and buy those for their music project and pay Bell Media for use of those tapes, I don't see any money all these years later. No, Bell's making the money. Typical. And I don't know what the deal is for someone to acquire footage, but you know, there's a lot of things that I don't have that I wish I had. Some things I do have, I originally had on VHS, and then I digitized them. So my YouTube channel does have some stuff, a lot more than I would like there to be, or not enough, I think.
Yeah, there must be a huge back catalog. I mean, there obviously has to be, and stuff that didn't even, you know, hit the air kind of thing. There must be a huge catalog of cool stuff that's hanging around.
Well, yeah, and I like, you know, and thank God these companies, these independent film companies, are approaching Bell Media, because there's a gold mine they're sitting on. Think of it with the New Music, which was a music magazine show on City TV, which paved the way for Much Music. Back in the 80s, they were broadcasting in 1979, doing interviews with Tom Petty and Iggy Pop. That's in that library. And I remember it around 2002. No one realized how long betas or 3/4-inch videotapes were going to last for. Oxides wear off after a while.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
That's why, you know, the Tragically Hip, you're hearing now old stuff that hasn't been done because someone was smart enough to go through the Tragically Hip masters, put them on a 1-inch or 2-inch reel, press play, put all the sliders up, and hit record digitally, and save all these songs. Yeah. Because no one knows how long these master tapes can last. The oxides wear off after years. So yeah, Much, a long time ago, started to at least transfer all the old videos to new videos before those tapes can crap. And I remember some of the old 3/4-inch machines couldn't even play them just because the oxides had just worn right off. So they had to rent these top loaders, old antique top loaders that would play the 3/4-inch. So you'd be watching it and it'd be like crinkled tape going by, and all of a sudden you might catch like 3 minutes of good tape. And so, yeah, so the Much archives are priceless. They really are.
Yeah, I would imagine. I did a bunch of digitizing in school when I was doing audio in school for CBC. Same premise. Like, these tapes were kind of getting old. It was older interviews, like really old interviews, like pre-reel to reel and stuff like that, like, or like old reel to reel kind of stuff. And yeah, it was fun to sit and listen to all this old stuff. There's a lot of interviews and stuff like old, like really old, just CBC radio interviews with people, politicians,
gold
artists. Yeah, just gold. But yeah, it was a huge undertaking. Like, we had a pile of tape machines in a room and a bunch of people, and I mean, it was fun, but it was a lot of work. And of course, you stumble across tapes that have, you know, been broken or ripped or whatever. Now you're repairing tapes. It's a nuisance. But I hope that somebody does digitize a lot of that. Hopefully, we could get a look at it, at least some of it. You know.
Well, what Bell Media started doing is when a lot of this old footage was being digitized from the library for the doc, they decided, let's just keep it going. Let's just digitize the whole library. Nice. And so thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of tapes. So it's a long process, and it's slowly getting done. So that's good.
Yeah, hopefully they'll turn
for generations to come.
Yeah, hopefully put it somewhere so people can see it. Even if they built, a website or whatever, like a streaming site to kind of go look at it and you can get a taste, right? Like it'd be cool. It's cool stuff to pass on. Like I think of Much as like a piece of great Canadian history. Technically, you know what I mean? Like it should be saved.
Oh yeah.
Like I truly do. I think it was way more important than people kind of let on, and the fact that it's not around anymore is hugely missed. And yeah, I think it was super important. Like the CHUM building is, like I say, from a distance, that place is like Mecca. It's a sanctuary kind of thing, right? So like that's how I look at it. So it would be really cool if you guys put that media out so we could see it.
Slowly happening, yeah. And it's sad for 299 Queen Street West, because I think an internal email got leaked a couple of weeks ago. The building is now being sold. It is considered a heritage building, so they have to pretty much leave the exterior. But I think it's sold as to a developer for condos.
Gross.
Of course.
CTV, Bell, all those interests that are in that building now are going to be moving to Pickering, where CTV has a building where TSN is broadcast out of. So certainly the end of an era, that's for sure.
Yeah, should be turned into a museum.
At least, the bottom floor would be great as like a little kind of walk-through tourist museum, historical. Like it's a landmark, right? I mean, it's something you want to go see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I made a very special effort when I went to Toronto 2 years ago to go see it, because like I've been in Toronto a lot or whatever, but I've been working and all this sort of stuff. But I was like, okay, I have to go see the building. I want to take a picture of it. I want to take a picture of the dish on the top. You know what I mean? Like I want to get a picture of this before it turns into a condo, because I know that's what's coming. Because that's what everything ends up being, becomes a house for somebody. Which is, I appreciate the housing part, but take it easy on the heritage buildings, right? Like, come on.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Nothing stays the same. Everything's supposed to change. And it's just something we get used to as everyone gets older. It's a shame to see some things like that. And I understand the importance of maintaining some of the past in all of our lives. And when you're a kid, when you're younger, you don't really think about it.
Yeah.
It's not until you get older where you appreciate certain things and you don't want to see them go away.
No,
so
it's good with the digitalizing too.
I think they're going to be gone as of October, so that building will start. It's probably in the new year. 299 Queen.
Crazy. 299 Queen Street condos. Wow. Wonder if you get your hands on that big dish on the roof. I wonder how much they want for that thing.
Or the car coming out of the wall. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Man, yeah, that'd be super cool. Yeah, because I mean, you've been tossed off that building a couple times. So
just once, I think.
Yeah, the old tree toss, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy when you walk by and you see the parking lot where it happened, kind of thing. Like that part was like, for me, it was like, holy shit, there it is. Like, that's where it happened.
There's the tree toss.
Well, I didn't know. I didn't know until the documentary screening that Steve Anthony almost fell over on one of the tree tosses.
Oh shit.
I did see that somewhere before. Maybe it was on YouTube or something.
His foot slipped and he almost went over with the tree. And they showed it in slow motion. I had no idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely would have taken a turn for the worse there if he had fallen off tossing a Christmas tree into the dumpster.
Yeah, live on air.
Speaking of which, I don't know if it's common knowledge, Steve Anthony dealing with a little bit of health issues right now. So
no way.
Prayers and thoughts go out to Steve right now. We're neighbors. He's just down the road.
Oh, no way.
He's in Picton, and I'm in Kingston. Picton's about an hour drive west of Kingston. But he's in Vancouver getting some help with some health issues. So pray he comes out the other side.
Definitely.
Just fine.
All the best for him. Hopefully he gets through this battle.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Bill, we appreciate you so much for coming on here and picking your brain a little bit. It's been a complete honor on our behalf. I know on Sam's behalf as well.
For sure.
You know what I mean? It's a great author once said, everyone has a story worthy of a book. And this is our story, and we thank you for being a part of this. This is truly a perfect circle moment for us right now.
It is for sure, yeah. Yeah, it's very cool.
I absolutely appreciate the interest. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It means a lot to me that people care. It really does. And great questions and great guys you are. And someday, hopefully, meet in person. Drinks on me, boys.
Awesome. We'll be there.
I'm there.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Oilers or Flames fans? Well, we know you're a Chicago fan, which is great.
I'm a Leafs fan.
Dirty old
Oh,
Leafs.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
My whole life, right? So I'm an East Coaster, so the Leafs are on TV, and that's the team that I gravitated towards. So
Yeah, you can buy your own beer.
Well, any Edmonton fans watching, think of, I think Pittsburgh lost in the finals, then they won the cup the next year. Flames lost the finals, then they won the cup the next year. I think same thing happened with the Capitals. So I think Edmonton is going to be winning the cup next year.
hey,
You heard it here?
And then Chicago after that.
I think so too. We're picking up some good.
and it's always Toronto's year, right? It's always our year.
It's always Toronto's here. Yeah. Yeah.
I love the first week. Leafs win 2 games. Leaf fans, we're going to the cup.
all the way, baby, all the way.
All the way.
Yeah.
Hey, the passion is there.
Yeah, you gotta stand behind your
for
thing.
sure. Boys, thank you so much. I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Hopefully we'll speak again. Thank you so much, buddy.
Keep up the great work.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Awesome,
it.
buddy.
Cheers, guys.
Take
Thank you.
care, Bill.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.